What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am, of course, your host, Reckless Rex Ruger. Watching my back, as always, the Freddie Mercury puppet. We are here, a couple of amazing frontmen. Why am I an amazing frontman? Because I am the offspring of a great frontman, Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That is me, a.k.a. the hair metal high priest, a.k.a. the king of sleaze, a.k.a. the son of glam, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam, the peanut butter to your jam, adored by millions of fans. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, shazam, hot damn. Woo, I'm feeling good. As always, I'm looking good. I'm going to verify that right now. Little game I like to call Find His Bad Side, and it doesn't exist. The good news is my guest is here. The shenanigans are over. We're going to get down to it and chop it up, get down to the brass tacks. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm excited. My guest is here, and I've been looking forward to this one all day long. And now we just got to get him in here. Do I got you? The suspense builds. Do I got you? There you go. I just got to activate. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Beautiful. Hey, I appreciate you doing this, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? First, before we get to King Missile and any of their music, one thing that I found fascinating when I was talking to you yesterday is how prolific you are with writing and with poetry. Aside from the music, is this something that always came pretty natural to you? Have you always been felt that creative spark?
If I have an idea, it's usually easy for me to get it across.
Yeah.
You know, I take stuff from work, sensitive artists. You know, as soon as I think of that idea, it kind of writes itself.
Okay.
The problem in the past was ideas.
Right.
But what I've discovered over the last almost 5 years is that I'm going to say 4.5 years, sorry. Since October of 2020, the commitment to writing poems daily and posting them on social media daily has opened me up to acceptance of more ideas. I mean, more ideas come. Like my theory, I wrote a poem about it recently. I don't think I've put it out yet, but it's that I have this theory that because I don't reject ideas, because I'll often, if I have an idea, I'll pursue it and try to write it and give it its due. Because I do that, I think more ideas come, or I just notice I'm more likely to notice ideas when they do come. And once I notice them, as long as I'm able, like, you know, time wise, as long as I'm in a position to write it in the moment, I will. Otherwise, I'll write down the title or the idea, and then I'll continue with it later.
How do you battle with what many people would refer to as, you know, commonly known as writer's block? Do you ever feel stalled? Do you ever feel stuck for ideas? Like, I know you said that you try to embrace the influx of ideas and find something in there to use, but are you ever just completely stuck? Because it seems like, you know, with how much work you are putting out, you know, reading them on your site, you know, self-publishing your own books, that you seem to have no shortage of creative sparks or ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I would say not only do the ideas come fairly easily, but as I said before, the writing comes easily. And when it doesn't, I'm trying to think the last time I abandoned an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I have a collection. Like I write in one or two ways. Like I either write on my computer using Microsoft Word, or I write on Google Keep, which is a way to, like, you know, I can write on my phone or on the computer with Google Keep. So I have a Google Keep file, a couple of them actually, you know, called Abandon. These are ideas that I didn't pursue.
Okay.
You know, or I started, but I didn't get anywhere with. So, you know, let me see if I can, A, B, A, N, D. Where are they?
Because then obviously my head is off to you, man, because, doing this podcast and talking to creative types, i.e. musicians, artists, from all walks of life, from all different genres, oftentimes it is hard to stay inspired or find, inspiration, sometimes for days, weeks, months at a time. I imagine that as an artistic and or creative person, you can get into lulls. So you seem like you're able to manage to avoid doing that.
I really do think it's a function of accepting any idea that comes. You know?
It's also probably like a muscle too, right? I mean, you are using it a lot though, too. You're getting your hands right in there dirty, and you're writing or typing or creating.
Yeah.
You're not letting it go dormant.
It's like, I'm vegan, but I'll use a fishing metaphor.
Okay.
What I think happens is, if you don't throw the fish back when you catch them, then more fish come to you. That's just the way, then somehow the ocean becomes more replenished with more fish.
Sure.
If you take them out. I guess to explain it cognitively, I think my brain is primed to make connections, so that if I have an idea for a poem, then I can see how that idea is going to lead to a couple of other ideas, which I may or may not pursue, within the poem. And if it doesn't, if I get stuck, look, here's an example, right?
Okay.
In my abandoned file. One more slice of that cake. One more drink for the road. One more fuck before we're over and out. That's all I wrote.
Yeah.
So I think that was going to be like a lot of one mores, one after the other, but I didn't feel it that day, and so I put it over here.
And when you have an abandoned file like that, like you will revisit them and eventually flesh them out and have them come to fruition in some way, shape, or form.
I would say that if I'm stuck for ideas, then I might look in the abandoned file and see if something is triggered. But I haven't been stuck for ideas for a long time. So they usually I'm looking at this file for the first time in probably months.
Now, when you're writing a lot of poetry, but you're also a musician, how do you decipher what stays a poem and what could potentially be turned into a song? Is there a difference?
If I write something that rhymes, then I'll set it to music. If I write something that doesn't rhyme and Dog Bowl wants to set it to music, then he will. Yeah. And a couple of times I've written things that rhyme that he has set to music. I'll say to him, "Oh, I think this could be a song," and he'll put it to music. But most of the time when I write something that rhymes, I feel an urge to set it to music. This is only a recent phenomenon for me because I only started learning to play an instrument a few years ago.
Yeah.
But once I learned that, I did find that the chords came, the music came pretty easily too. If I want to write some music to something, it will. Although it's hard for me to write music to things that don't rhyme. It's hard for me to like those would be more like instrumental works, and I don't know if it's hard or I just haven't done it, or actually, you know what it is? I find it hard to play while I'm speaking. So if I write music, then I'm going to have to play the music while speaking.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not try to do that because it's not one of my things yet.
So when you're going to construct a song, now switching gears over to music, what's your own creative process usually like? Is it different than writing poetry? Is it the same? When you're going to sit down and you're going to say, I don't know if you do this deliberately or not, but do you differentiate between I'm sitting down to write poetry or I'm sitting down to write potential songs?
No, I'm writing several things in a stretch, right? And I might get to something where there's a rhythm and I can think of the next line and it rhymes. And then I think, oh, well, maybe I'll just turn this into a rhyming poem. Similarly, if I write a line that has 5 syllables, and I think it's not a very, it's not an idea that I want to write a lot about, then I'll think, well, maybe I'll make this a haiku, because I've got the first line anyway, or sometimes a 7-syllable line will come, and that'll be the middle line, and I'll work around it. So the process isn't different. It's just like, it's always about discovering what it is that I'm writing as I'm writing it, right? So sometimes I discover that it's a song, and sometimes it's a poem. It's not a different then once I decide it's a song, or once I decide it's going to rhyme, more accurately, once I decide it's going to rhyme, it is a different process, because rhyming is not as free. It's not as like, I'm not as free to do whatever I want when I'm rhyming. I have to make it rhyme. So I'm limited in that sense.
So let me ask you now, for people that have tuned in and will see this episode and see that it is John S. Hall from King Missile, let me get updates on what is going on with King Missile.
We have some shows lined up, and we're working on a record. The record, I think, is almost finished, but I don't know how long it will take for it to come out, because I don't know who, if anyone, is going to put it out, or whether we're going to decide to put it out ourselves. But we've got 19 or 20 songs, and I think most of them will go on. Will stay on.
And I love that you were doing a fully realized album, because having so many artists on here, it is quite debatable, like whether a full length LP even makes sense in today's dwindling attention span world, where people are putting out singles, EPs, smaller bodies of work. It is nice to hear guys still with an old school mentality who say, I'm still an album guy. I'm going to put out a fully realized album, and the world be damned.
Well, I mean, I don't ultimately think it makes a difference if I put out, like, if we had the capacity, right, to put out 3 6-song EPs, as opposed to one album, I don't really see the difference, except marketing, and I don't really care about the marketing aspect of it. It's like, I think the advantage to making an album, like, one of the songs on this album is 6.5 minutes long.
Right.
I don't think it could be released on any other kind of format except within the context of an album. I don't think it would make a good single, and I think it would dominate an EP, whereas it doesn't. It belongs within a body of work that's larger than that, so that it doesn't overshadow, I think.
So, what are your own listening trends like when you're like around the house, or you're going to listen to music for your own enjoyment? Are you able to find, or are you even interested in finding, new music out there? Or are you one of those guys that kind of falls back on the stuff that you've always liked?
Well, I have a kid, so I find out about new music from her.
Yeah.
So some of what she plays, I think, is fantastic, but I wouldn't be like, oh, Alexa, play Some Cigarettes After Sex. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I might, out of curiosity, I might do that, out of curiosity, just to see. I did that with Billie Eilish recently, because
I suffer through a lot with my grandkids too. I indulge them with playlists on my phone too, and I have informed some of that stuff that's on those playlists. Other stuff they've come across themselves that I'm not always over the moon about having to listen to in the car. But I mean, they're kids. I indulge them. I'm just happy that they're embracing music on some level, I guess.
I wouldn't say suffer, Like, this is what I wouldn't. I mean, like, my kid does not like crap,
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, I'm a Taylor Swift apologist, and a lot of people my age aren't.
Right.
They talk about the music, and I'm like, well, she's a lyricist.
Right.
But they're always focusing on, oh, this music is so obvious, and I'm like, first of all, I'm not enough of a musician to know how obvious her music is.
Right.
But her lyrics, I know, are extremely intricate, and they're extremely confessional,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the kind of shit that I embrace,
Yeah.
And then other stuff that my kid listens to, she's not like a Swiftie anyway, but like she listens to Biba Doobie, and who recently, a few months ago, posted, my kid was like, oh my God, Biba Doobie posted something on Instagram where she's like with my song Detachable. So like
Yeah.
that was kind of nice,
Yeah, that's cool.
which I
Yeah.
never would have known if I didn't have a kid who listens to that. And Cigarettes After Sex thing are really good. And then she is very open to my shit. We listened to Tusk by Fleetwood Mac in its
Yeah.
entirety, the whole album.
Yeah.
And she added like several songs to her playlist from that record,
Yeah. That's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and Tusk is like a difficult album even for my peers, like I mean,
Sure.
not difficult, but it's not a record that most people point to, but I love that record, so whatever.
Are you able to put a finger on because I think just by default I think a lot of people will see the band name King Missile and for lack of not knowing other elements and parts of your catalog, they will certainly remember Detachable Penis. Out of all the songs that you've written, why do you think that one was embraced? I mean, I remember I live here in upstate New York. I think I told you last night that I'd come to see you guys. You played at Hamilton College, which is a college here in my area. But the college radio stations were playing that particular song in this area quite a bit from what I remember, circa 92, 93. Out of all the stuff you've done, why do you think that one really stood out and resonated with people?
I mean, by the time I had written that one, I had the experience of having made like 4 previous records.
Yeah.
Or 3 or 4 previous records. And having a pretty good track record of predicting what I thought was going to work, Sensitive and Take Stuff from the first record, I thought people would like. And the reason I thought so was because, Sensitive is making fun of a particular type of person, like that song Valley Girl that came out. It's like you hear Valley Girl or you hear Sensitive Artist and that like, oh, I know this type of person. I know a person who actually, and Take Stuff from Work is just like, it's exuberant and a lot of people feel oppressed in their jobs. So it's like liberating, and then on the Mystical record, the Jesus song, like I knew when I wrote it that like it worked,
Yeah.
like, and the same thing with Detachable. I knew when I wrote it, people were going to like it.
Yeah.
I thought to myself when I wrote it, this is another #1 college radio song. I had 3 or 4 by that time.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be another #1 college radio song. But I did not think that commercial radio was going to play it. But once I learned that they did, I thought, oh, well, I think people are going to like this. More people than I would have expected are going to encounter this. And I think they'll like it, because, you have that sense of like, oh, have I ever heard anyone say that word on the radio?
Right.
Can you even say it? And some stations wouldn't play it because they thought it was not. So there's that aspect to it. But then it's also kind of, it's a humorous narrative,
Very. Yeah.
You don't just, it's not just a guy saying penis over and over again. It's telling a story and it has this kind of, I don't know, Dadaist or, surrealistic idea to it, like how does that even work? Nobody really like, and when I wrote it I wasn't visualizing like, oh, does blood come out? No, like I don't write, like people just, it's like slapstick or something,
Yeah, right. Like it almost it almost implies that you could just take the penis right off, no problem.
Yeah,
and
then
attach it right back on.
Yeah, and when we made the video, like we just told the story of as written, like there was no need to come up with anything additional narrative wise, so we just kind of, first I looked around my apartment, I checked the medicine cabinet, and that's all in the video too,
Right.
and it's so I thought the whole thing just worked, we made a good video for it. I will say that when I wrote those words, I did wait until I heard music that I thought would work with it. I didn't want music that was going to compete with the lyrics. Some of my songs, some of my lesser known stuff, there's like, it's not as nice of a blend, But when that one came along, I was like, okay, I can do this piece at the pace that I want to do it. with this kind of music. You know, it was the right beat. It was like the right number of beats per minute or within that range, you know, and so on, you know. A Cheesecake Truck, same thing, you know, like Cheesecake Truck just sounds like it has this kind of circus silly mentality to it.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Sandbox too. You know, there are a lot of instances where I thought the Jesus music is perfect, you know,
Yeah.
for
It
that.
is.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not, I mean, I think, you know, what I've learned over the years is that a lot of music can work, but sometimes I really think, oh, this is really perfect for what we did, you know,
Yeah.
for what the
It's meant to
lyrics
be.
and yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's meant
really
to
feels
be.
that way sometimes. Yeah.
And so, uh, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in this. So the last time you guys actually put out an album or an EP, it's been how long now?
Wait, I thought I was supposed to correct you if you're wrong,
Yeah.
but you
So it's
didn't
been,
guess. How can I correct you if you're wrong if you don't say anything that can be right or wrong? I'm
is
kidding.
it 2015?
Yeah, that was the
This fucking
that,
guy?
this fucking guy record. Yeah, Art Garden Variety Fuckers is the name of the album. Yeah,
Okay,
I
so it
think
has been
I
okay. So it has been a full 10 years. Now, was that
yeah.
you know, was that you know, was waiting that long by design?
I mean, I had a period. I had a period of time where I thought, what is the point in making records? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I didn't for a while, and I didn't know if I was going to again. But then what happened was, a year ago, January, Dog Bowl and I were scheduled to do a show,
Okay.
and he went onto my socials, and he found this poem that I wrote, and he wrote music to it, and then he made a demo in his house, and I thought the demo sounded great, and I thought if this is a demo, you know, we could make an album in his studio, in his home
Yeah.
studio,
Yeah.
and that won't cost us anything, you know. And so, you know, because my thing was like, why spend like 10, 20, $30,000 on a record that's going to bring in, you know, next to nothing. You know, it's not
Right.
going to recoup probably, right?
Right.
But when you eliminate the expense, that expense, you know, we'll probably pay for some good mastering and maybe get someone to mix a couple of the songs. But like,
Yeah.
you know, so the what do they call it? The economy of scale has
Yes.
changed. You know,
Yeah.
so and that makes it easier. I mean, I would be happy to make more records. You know, like I'm writing 39 poems a week. I could make a record. I could make an album like every month, like I make the books every month. If
Right.
Dogpole were up for it, but he's
Yeah.
not. But that's fine. You know, like I'm saying, like I like making records. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So I
Now,
would do
getting back to the
more.
books now, you know, now you just brought up self-publishing. To switch gears again, self-publishing the books of poems. Is there a reasoning as to why you know, obviously I see you on your Facebook page, you know, you're reciting the poems, you're sharing them. What's your reasoning? I want to hear it from you. What your reasoning behind self-publishing the books? Are they selling extremely well? Is it something that's gratifying to you personally?
Yeah, it's gratifying to me personally. Like
Okay.
I'm putting out 12 books a year, you
Okay.
know, and that's an accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
So is like writing 2,000 poems a year. That's an accomplishment, you
Huge.
know.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I might tell myself only a few hundred of them are really good, but
Right.
like 10 years ago, I wasn't writing a few hundred good poems in a year, you know, like
Right.
because I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. So,
And also
um,
good is subjective, right? Like what you're thinking are the 100 good poems. Somebody else could think something else that you don't think is so good is amazing.
yeah, and somebody else could think all of it sucks, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like what I need for me is to feel gratified
Yeah.
and like that I've done something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not about pride, by the way. It's more about a sense of being true to myself as an artist,
Yeah.
and honoring the ideas that come as best I can. I mean, there's a religious way to look at it too, right? Like, I don't know where the ideas come from, right?
Right.
But one of the ways I express my gratitude that they come is by honoring them with, as best a presentation as I can muster for
And
them.
the sharing
So
it with and the sharing it with other people, regardless of who's buying into it or who's into it. There's just that concept of sharing it and putting it out there, knowing that it is out there. Is that part of the gratification that you're talking about?
yeah, and I would guess that like over the course of a week, you know, maybe I don't want to estimate, but like a decent number of people over the course of a week will hear a day's worth of poems,
Yeah.
and sometimes they comment, and sometimes they hit like. Um, and then as far as the books go, I've enjoyed designing the album covers. Like the first poem of each day is based on a photograph. So then, or at some point in the month, I have to decide which of those photographs is going to be the cover for the
Right.
book, which is how the title, the last one was of an ostentatious sailboat that I saw on the East River that I
Yeah.
took a photo of. So the record for the May poems, which came out earlier this week, the record that title is called Ostentatious Sailboat. And so I design the covers, I take the pictures, I write an introduction, and then Amazon prints it on demand, so I don't have to put up any money up front. So again, like if it doesn't cost me anything, I don't really care, if people buy it or not. It's
Right.
there for them. Like if at some point somebody says, like if somebody is like moved to the point where they want to see what I've done for the last year, right? They can spend $120 and
Right.
buy
Right.
and buy the 12 books. Or $12 if they have a Kindle, I could,
Right.
like, because I charge $1 for the Kindles and 10 for the paperback.
And where do you stand on, like, once this new album is out? Where do you guys stand, and where are you at this stage of your life on touring or playing live shows? You know what I mean? Like, what's the itinerary like? Has it changed? Obviously, I talk to a lot of guys on here that are musicians. As you get older, you don't really necessarily want to be away from your creature comforts as much. Guys seem, well, obviously it's also very expensive to tour, but aside from that, some guys are comfortable going out for, days at a time, weeks at a time. Really putting a cap on it. And where do you guys stand on it? Will you play live to support this new album, and to what extent?
I work a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
So that's not really possible for me.
Yeah.
But if I ever get fired or at some point I'll retire, I mean, I wouldn't mind it. It's been a long time, and I liked it. I like performing. I like seeing the people. It's part, performing is part of my raison d'etre, but I
Yeah.
get to do a lot of it because I live in Manhattan,
Right.
like, and so there are still a lot of venues here, and
Sure.
I've got like between now and the beginning of August, I've got like 6 or 7 shows, solo, one with me and Dog Bowl only, and a couple with bands. So like, I perform as much as I want here, and I would do more. Like I don't like doing a weekend thing. I could do several weekend things or
Yeah.
take off Fridays and do that, Friday to Sunday. But, if there's interest, I'll do it, And me and Dog Bowl are going to Australia and New Zealand in the fall.
Okay.
And so we'll be gone for 2 weeks. That's like a lot of my vacation days,
Yeah.
but it's fun, like we're gonna make money to go,
Right. Right.
So it's like, so sure, we'll do it.
And now differentiate for people who might not know. Your music is out under the moniker of King Missile and also Dogfly Religion, correct?
No, King Missile Dogfly Religion was the original name of the band.
Okay.
And then when Dog Bowl left the band, the name became King Missile. And then when I stopped working with those people, we had King Missile the Third and King Missile the Fourth, and I think there was a King Missile the Fifth at one point.
And what is the origin of the name for people that might not know? Like, what is the origin? Who comes up with the name? And is there a meaning behind it? Is there, was something going on in someone's mind? Is there a story behind the band name?
There's this guy named David Sparks. He's best known for being like featured as an actor in the "Fight for Your Right" video by the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
He's got like the little tape in his glasses, like tape glasses. Like, so that guy's David Sparks. And when King Missile was first formed, I went up to all my friends and I said, "What should my new band be called?" And he said King Missile, and that sounded right, because at that time, like, we were an acoustic outfit and it was an absurdly like rock and roll sounding name, and we were anything but rock and roll. The joke became less funny when I started working with Dave Rick and we were actually a rock band, but whatever. So the band that exists now is the original. It's 3 of the original members on that first EP, and it's called King Missile Dogfly Religion again. But Rebecca, R.B. Corbett, who played drums on that first EP, plays bass now, and it's me, Dog Bowl, and her, and 2 percussionists who are new to the band. Yeah, and that's that's who's making the record. That's what.
And now, did you grow up in a house that was very musical? How early did music get its hooks into you? Was it always part of your upbringing?
My father had records that really, some of which really captured my imagination, like the Clancy Brothers, and Tom Lehrer, and I'm forgetting. He played a lot of jazz, but I tended to like music that had words at that time. I went to see the Clancy Brothers with my father at Carnegie Hall, and I never saw Tom Lehrer, but I played those records to death. And actually, the early records are being re-released on a label called Needle Juice, and that same label is also re-releasing Tom Lehrer's stuff. So it's kind of cool that I'm
coming full circle. Yeah.
There are other bands, other records that I'll remember, but when I was like 9 or 10, this kid, I think I was 9, this kid in my elementary school had the Hair soundtrack, and that ended up being the first record I bought. Oh, I know, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, my father had the Folsom Prison record, and I think that was the only one he had, but I ended up buying 10 or 12 Johnny Cash records. The San Quentin record, which I really liked. And
what was it about Johnny Cash specifically that resonated with you? Because even though it might not be an obvious comparison in terms of like the King Missile sound, Johnny Cash, obviously like a guy who also kind of told stories with his songs.
Yeah, I think I'll say this. I found a lot of music inscrutable. Like, I didn't understand the lyrics or what they meant.
Right.
A lot of lyricists aspire to be poets, and, like, I'm labeled a poet sometimes, but my poetry is almost always straightforward and not difficult to understand.
Right.
Tom Lehrer was that way too, right? His lyrics were very straightforward. And the Clancy Brothers were singing these Irish songs from like 100 years or more earlier, and they were very straightforward and easy to understand. And the Beatles too, like, especially in the early days, the Beatles songs are, so in that. And I was also like a DC over Marvel kid, because I understood those comics better. They were simpler. I like the simpler approach, and so Johnny Cash, almost all of his songs made perfect sense on the first listen.
I can very much see a correlation in listening to something like Detachable Penis, which, as you mentioned earlier, has humor, is kind of tongue-in-cheek, correlating with something like A Boy Named Sue.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Boy Named Sue is also a narrative, and it rhymes.
Yes, yeah.
So there's that. And I mean, another thing about Johnny Cash that I don't think gets talked about much is that there's a real plain spokenness about his delivery.
Yeah.
Like even in the 1950s records, like he isn't trying to do too much. He doesn't over sing. Sometimes he barely sings.
Right. And certainly no one's going to accuse the musicians, him and his musicians, as being like, amazing virtuosos. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't reinventing the wheel. They were keeping it, as you said earlier, very sparse, very simple.
Yeah. Johnny Cash had no interest in virtuosity.
You're right.
He had no interest in, like, what's the best way to sing this song? His approach was like, like, all right, here's a song. I like it. I'm going to sing it the way I sing all my songs,
Yeah.
Like, so I would say that I actually get more into, like, I'm more guilty of, like, singing than Johnny Cash in terms of, like, like sometimes I want to embellish. Johnny Cash never wants to embellish. That's the thing. He lets the song speak for itself. And that was true when he wrote his own songs. And, most of his well-known songs are covers, but in the early days, he wrote a bunch. I should also mention Jonathan Richman, who is, like, the center of the canon for me.
Yeah.
Like, the end all and be all, the alpha and omega. And what does he do? Like, well, he sometimes writes simple stuff. So that there's a real relationship between something like Cheesecake Truck or Sandbox and what Jonathan Richman was doing. And he also, like, I don't think Jonathan Richman oversins either.
No,
I think he's, like, very, like, plain. This is how I sing.
Right.
What he does do is he learns multiple languages and writes songs in other languages.
Yeah.
And there's where I kind of, like, that's my only thing where I'm like, well, I don't know what he's singing now, because the songs were so simple, but now they're not simple because I don't speak the language that he's speaking.
Right.
But I respect it because he likes to play all over the world, and he wants his audiences, so he writes songs for the various audiences, like, and so if he's in Spain, he can sing a few songs in Spanish. And if he's in France, he can sing a few in France.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And he also has been consistently dedicated to musicianship, which, again, that's not like Johnny Cash. Like Johnny Cash, I don't know if he learned a new chord after, like, 1959. But if you watch Jonathan Richman today, he's playing, like, better than he did 5 years ago. He keeps improving. Like, he has a real craftsman approach, or a real worker's approach to it. So
now
I respect that too.
And now, before I let you out of here, please do tell me if people want to get tapped into what King Missile's doing, what they're up to, updates on the album's progress or when it's coming out, anything. Where's the best place to tap in and find out what's doing with King Missile?
Well, I know a lot of people hate Facebook, but it's the easiest platform for me because it allows me. I can like Instagram has a 2,200 character limit.
Yes, they do.
And so usually my poems, like, have to continue into the comments, which I find annoying.
Yeah.
But at Instagram, I'm John_S_Hall. And at Facebook, I'm JSH John S. Hall.
Okay.
So those are the best platforms. I have a YouTube channel too, but YouTube isn't really, like, where I would go. So at the bottom of my poems each day, I put, like, what's coming up.
Okay.
Like, usually it's performances, and the book. I mentioned the latest book. So that's what I do, like, and then sometimes I'll also post, like, if something, like a new show is added, I'll post it.
And do you have And do you have a time frame for when the new King Missile album will be out, or a target date of when you'd like it to be out?
It would be nice if it was out before we left for Australia. So we're supposed to go out to Australia at the end of September.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be ideal. But Dog Bowl's doing the work, and I don't want to pressure him too much. So
yeah.
He's
so just be on the lookout for it. Just be on the lookout for it and know that it's coming, people. Right? That's what we can tell them. No, it's coming.
I have a Google alert for my band. So like, the problem with the King Missile Google alert is like, if the King of Saudi Arabia fires a missile, then I get that report too. But like, occasionally I'll find out if somebody's written an article about me, and I think, so a Google alert. If you really, really hate social media, then maybe a Google alert would be the way to go.
Yeah. And now listen, I did talk to my friend Sean last night. And shout out to my oldest, dearest childhood friend, Sean. We were discussing, I did tell him you were coming on the podcast. We were regaling each other with the story of seeing you, and probably we're guessing probably sometime early 1993. We do remember it being cold here. As I said, Detachable Penis all over the college radio stations here. I know you mentioned when we were talking yesterday that you never considered King Missile music to mosh to, but we did liven up the room, and we did get a couple nods from the guys in the band who I think were relatively happy that we were infusing some energy.
I'm sure Dave Rick was happy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my thing, right? When they're moshing, they're probably not listening to the words, and I'm the word guy, so like that's where I'm gonna be. But like, yeah, it was great for the band, and like occasionally I like that feeling of being a rock singer. I didn't think I would, and I didn't think that would ever happen to me, but like, I played in front of 20,000 people at music festivals, so like, I've had that experience too, and that's like a rare experience. Most people don't ever get to do anything like that,
right?
And that's like a rush like no other, and that's not anything that would have happened, I think, if I had stayed with that first configuration of the band.
Right.
I mean, we would have had other great experiences, but the experience of performing in, big outdoor stages. I mean, I would like for Dog Bowl to experience that one day, so maybe we'll see what happens. But now.
And now, full disclosure now, because you've been on my podcast, obviously because I look the way I look, and I try to stand out among podcasters by making the outrageous claim, which I don't think is all that outrageous and that much of a stretch, that I am Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. And I do believe DNA testing will prove this at some point. I think you should be able to look at me and probably tell. But will this encounter be memorialized in a future poem? That's what I'd like to know. Could our interaction here, could you being on a podcast with a delusional podcaster making the outrageous claim that he is David Lee Roth Jr. somehow work itself into a poem?
I suppose it's possible. I mean, I've done many podcasts.
No pressure, John.
I've never written a poem about a podcast that I've done, and I've done several.
Yeah.
I just found out that Mark Maron is closing down his podcast.
That's a shame. I like him. That's a shame.
I was on his Air America show before he had his podcast.
Super talented guy, super funny guy. Yeah, absolutely.
And very, very smart.
Very smart. Yep. I've written, I've read at least one of his books. He may have more than one out, but an amazing guy and an extremely talented guy. The world of podcasting needs more guys like that, because nowadays, I tell this to everybody, anybody with a laptop and a microphone nowadays fancies themselves a podcaster. There is an influx of podcasts, and obviously, much like music, we only have so many hours in the day. We can only listen and consume so much media. So it really is dog eat dog out there in terms of podcasting. It's difficult.
I don't look at it that way. I mean, you could say the same thing about music. And
absolutely.
I feel like it's not a competition. It's
right. That's the healthy way to look at it, right? I just have to do my thing because I enjoy the people that I talk to and the people that I interact with, and I try to look at the numbers. I'm not in it for the monetizing my YouTube channel or getting to X amount of subscribers or X amount of viewers. If that comes, it comes, but it isn't anything that I stress.
Yeah, that's the best approach. I should mention, if I'm going to talk about Mark Maron, that he
Yeah.
does not like what I do, and he has said so on his podcast. A friend of mine was on there a few months ago, and she was defending me to him, but she was just like, nah, I don't like him. I don't like his brother. I don't, I'm like, okay, I mean, I know a lot of people connected to Mark Maron, and it's a shame he doesn't get it, but
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that hate, stuff that I think is undeniably good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that there are people that hate what I do.
Right. And all this stuff is just so subjective. All this media stuff, podcasts, music.
There was another one. I have another one.
Yeah.
Christina Ricci, who's a fan of mine, right? She was on the Rosie O'Donnell show, and they were in a movie together, and Rosie O'Donnell was like, "What was that crap music you were playing?" And
Rosie. Rosie.
Anyway.
I'm kind of not surprised it would go over Rosie O'Donnell's head. But shout out to Christine Ricci, though, man. I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean,
yeah. I never got to meet her. I would have liked to.
Yeah.
But when she first heard she was a fan, she was like 14, and the only thing I was thinking was it would be nice if we could get her in a video. But
yeah.
Then she ended up doing some great Black Snake Moan, and she was in a Woody Allen movie, I think, Say Anything. She
was in she was in Buffalo 66 with Vincent Gallo.
She's done a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. I believe she played the girlfriend in Monster, where Charlize Theron played female serial killer Eileen Wuornos.
That's right. Yeah,
she was really good. Movie. Really good in that. Yeah, super talented, man, and obviously has good taste in music.
Yeah, I would say that Christina Ricci is more talented than Mark Maron or Rosie O'Donnell. I'll just come out and say that.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah. Listen, John, I really appreciate you taking the time, man, and being so generous with your time, man. Really enjoyed the conversation, man. When the new album is out, let's get on here and do it again, man. I'd love to stay in touch and chat with you again.
That's a fine idea. Thank you.
Let's do that. Yeah, I appreciate it, John. Thanks so much, man. Really had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Later, my friend. There he goes, folks. John S. Hall. You know him from King Missile. At least you should know him from King Missile. And also, now you may go and explore his vast library of poetry, which if you go check him out on Facebook, he will orate the poems. I believe I used that word in the right context. He will read the poems. I'll dumb it down for you guys. Read the poems. And he also self-publishes his books. You can go to his Facebook page under his name, John S. Hall. He will read the poems. And as he said, he puts updates down in the comment section of King Missile shows, of King Missile news, probably links to go find where his poems are published. If you're looking for the physical product, or if you're looking for it on your Amazon Kindle or an ebook form. But very prolific, constantly putting out work, rolling out poems just at a remarkable rate. So my hat is off to him, man. It must feel great to feel that creatively prolific. So I applaud him. And the music of a King Missile, I've always found just extremely amazing, extremely talented. A lot of songs that are tongue-in-cheek, funny. There's humor, there's darkness, but in a good way. Just an amazing palette of work. People, of course, will know Detachable Penis, which was all over college radio back in the early 90s. But dive deeper, folks. There's a lot of amazing work there. And it sounds like very soon, new music from King Missile. And as he said, it has been since their last EP, This Fucking Guy, in 2015. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute for these guys to put out some work. But as John said, they're going to be rolling out a lot of songs. Don't seem concerned with the length of the project or how long it's going to be. Obviously, certainly not held back by the constraints of thinking about commercial success or any of that stuff. Very freeing, very liberating, just able to just roll out art for the sake of rolling it out for people to enjoy. It's there, and there's not the rigors and the pressures of feeling like this has to do this. some lofty goal. So that's refreshing to hear. That's kind of the same approach that I take here with the podcast. I'm so appreciative to my viewers, my subscribers. We are always growing. More often than not, it is not leaps and bounds. It is a slow trickle, but I'm still appreciative nonetheless to see the numbers going up as slowly as that may be. It is what it is, folks. As I said in the interview, everybody and their brother right now is podcasting. And the same in the music world. There is an influx of music on the streaming platforms, new music. There's no shortage of artists. It's more just shortness of people's attention span and how many hours we're willing to lend throughout the course of our very busy days to consuming our media, whether it's podcasts or music or whatever it is, movies. It doesn't really matter. So, but we got to find the time. We got to find the time to carve out a little space for ourselves every day to enjoy good art when it's there. So I'm rambling again. Let me say a huge thank you to John S. Hall of King Missile. Go check out his Facebook page and go check out his literary work, his poetry, the back catalog of King Missile. It's all there for the consuming. So it's not hard to find, folks. Be a little savvy. Go use your internet for something other than looking at porn and shopping. So that being said, let me go into promotion mode and remind you guys to like and follow Off the Couch Boxing and Pod Scum, 2 separate podcasts. If you're into the pugilism, Off the Couch Boxing is for you. There'll be updates on the Facebook page on all things boxing, when new episodes are dropping, who will be on them, and big boxing news. If it's going down in the fight game, if it's popping off, I'm putting it on there. And of course, Pod Scum updates on new episodes as well, and who's going to be on those episodes as well, and any big music news that pops up. So I'm navigating both lanes, folks. The boxing podcast, the music podcast, and if you go to the YouTube channel, same thing. 2 separate playlists for Off the Couch Boxing and for Pod Scum. So please make sure when you're there to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay tapped in to some of the most amazing and real conversations. That's what we focus on here, folks. Not cookie cutter questions. We're all over the board with it, folks. We were just all over the board with it with John S. We're talking about music. We're talking about poetry. We're talking about life. We're talking about travel. We're talking about this, that. So you never know where we're going to go with it, folks. It's free form. It's conversation. And that's what we need to get back to, folks, because with technology and us with our noses and our devices a lot, conversation in this day and age gets neglected. Now, I know if you're watching me right now, your nose is obviously in a device because it's the only way you could be watching me. But hey, I'm still going to say what I'm going to say. That we need to and listen, I'm at least happy if you're watching me because you're watching conversation, at least, because we're not doing anything else here. You're almost eavesdropping or sitting in on, probably a better word, on a conversation. So I hope I'm making people feel part of it, like they're sitting here with me and John S. Hall or whoever said guest is. And that's the approach I'm trying to take here, folks. So I hope that comes across. And again, huge thank you to my viewers, to my subscribers. And again, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and continue to stay tapped in. And like I always say, when I end these things, of course, me being the king of sleaze and the son of Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., there's a lot on my shoulders, a lot of responsibility being the king of sleaze. So I will remind you before I go that there is one simple rule to live by, and that is take it easy and keep it sleazy.